So we're going to just do a little bit of this today and talk a little bit about invertebrates. So overall, we're in the animal kingdom. And the animal, so that's a kingdom. What's the next level down? Phylum. So all of the vertebrates, which we're going to be talking about later on, they're all in a single phylum. We mentioned the name when we talked about humans. Anyone remember? Humans are animals of kingdom. What phylum? Has to do, vertebrates have what? Backbone, which encloses what? What's in our backbone? Spinal cord. That might remind you of the name of the phylum. No? Chordates. They're called chordates. Okay, but that was vertebrates. Invertebrates actually go into a whole bunch of different phyla. Okay, well, we're not going to get into the Latin names of them. I'll tell you what they are, but you don't have to memorize them. So that's where we are. But let's think about, okay, all animals. What do we know about them? What are the characteristics of all animals? One thing else.
They are mammals.
Not all animals are mammals. Alright.
Yeah, multicellular.
Multicellular. Heterotroph.
Eukaryotic.
Eukaryotic. Good. So multicellular, eukaryotic, and they're heterotrophic. And there's a very wide variety of animals. Now, if I ask you right now, think of an animal. Don't tell me, but think of one.
Okay, I got it.
I almost bet most of you are thinking of, first of all, a vertebrate. Second of all, a mammal probably of a vertebrate. Okay? That's sort of, when we think about animals, we sort of always think about vertebrates. But actually, most animals are invertebrates. Okay, so we have animals with a backbone and without a backbone. Vertebrates and invertebrates.
Mr. Duras?
Yes?
What would a shark be?
A vertebrate. Even though they're cartilaginous fish, they do have a spinal cord.
I was going to ask if they had backbones.
Yeah. All right, so is this a vertebrate or an invertebrate?
Invertebrate. Vertebrate. It's a vertebrate.
It's a frog. It's a vertebrate. They have a backbone.
Poison.
They do. How about an earthworm? Invertebrate. Lobster.
Yeah, they have vertebrate.
I hear both.
Vertebrate.
Invertebrate. They have no backbone. They have an exoskeleton, but no, they have no bones. They just have an exoskeleton.
That's not. Those are. It's an exoskeleton.
It's made of other material. It's an outside skeleton. And how about this?
Cute vertebrate.
Cute little bear, vertebrate.
It's maybe polar bear.
All right. Now, when we talk about invertebrates, we're going to be talking about their symmetry. And I know that you all, because I have a daughter that's in 5th grade, so I remember her studying symmetry. I know you studied it probably when you talked about shapes and what kind of symmetry different shapes have. Well, when you talk about animals, we also talk about the symmetry of animals. And there's sort of 3 options. Asymmetry, bilateral symmetry, and radial symmetry. Does anybody know what asymmetry means? CJ?
So like you could cut it and pass it.
No.
There's no pattern?
There's no pattern. It's just, there's no organization. It's sort of randomly shaped. There's no pattern. Asymmetry is no pattern. All right. So like this shape has asymmetry. There's no real pattern to it. It's just kind of random. All right, bilateral. We've talked about prefixes lots of times. Bi means what? Two. Lateral?
Side to side.
Side. It means side. So bilateral, 2 side. So if something is bilateral symmetry,
It has 2 sides.
it has 2 equal sides. Yeah, we have 2 equal sides. If you draw a line right down the middle of us, we have pretty much the same thing on each side. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, there's variation. But overall, you know, we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 on each side. So we have bilateral symmetry. You draw a line right down the middle, splitting us into two equal sides. Yeah? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not perfect, but the overall pattern of how they're set up is bilateral. Then we have radial. Radial, like where have you heard radial? Something similar, probably in math. So not radio. Radius? Well, that's part of your rest. Well, where else have you heard radius?
Like radiation from like the microwave.
Where have you heard radius? Let's go with that. A circle, part of a circle. Radial symmetry
Perfect.
is circular symmetry, organized like around a wheel, like spokes on a wheel, or in a circular pattern. That's radial symmetry. So let's look at a few examples and decide what kind of symmetry we think they have.
Bilateral.
All right, how about whiskers here?
Bilateral. Whisker.
What kind of symmetry? Yeah, bilateral. We could draw a line right down the middle and we have two equal parts. How about spider? Also bilateral. Equal.
Asymmetrical.
An amoeba?
Asymmetrical.
Asymmetry. It doesn't have any pattern at all. Do you guys know what this is?
I think it's one of those. It's
So,
a
sea urchin.
Yeah, sea urchin. They're in the ocean and they have those little spikes. What kind of pattern of symmetry do you think they have? Yeah, it's radial. It doesn't quite, it's not perfect in the picture, but if you ever really seen one, all those spikes are organized in the circular pattern when you look at it. It has radial symmetry. This is a planaria. We're going to look at living planaria next week or the week after. It's a flatworm in the phylum Platyhelminthes. It really does have those kind of cartoon-looking eyes. What kind of symmetry does it have? Bilateral, right. Anyone seen one of these?
Ooh, I have one.
No, not a fossil. These are alive today.
Horseshoe crab.
Horseshoe
I
crab.
own two of them.
You do it like the shells, exoskeletons, yeah. What kind of symmetry does that have? Also bilateral. No, this is?
I feel like it's a cantaloupe.
Fossilized.
No, it's not fossilized. It's a sand dollar. A sand dollar is actually an animal. People think it's just like a shell. I mean, shells were animals. And a sand dollar is living, or was living. You know, if it washed up on the shore and it's kind of white, it's not living any longer. But it was once live. It can move around. It's a filter feeder. I'll show you a video of them moving when we get to that section. But what kind of symmetry does it have?
Radio.
Yeah, radial. It's circular. Like spikes,
Starfish.
spokes on a wheel. Ava? It depends. It can be different colors. Lots of times they're purple. And how about the starfish?
I think they're bilateral.
No?
Radio.
Radial.
Damn, guys.
They're like spokes coming off from the tire, right? You could draw a line this way, and that cuts it in two equal halves. You could draw a line this way and this way. So you can draw
It
multiple
kind of looks like a.
lines.
It kind of looks like a starfish.
It is a starfish.
All right. So invertebrate animals are animals without a backbone or a spinal column, we might say.
We go through these packets in like a day.
And like I said, you may think of animals and only think of vertebrates really, but actually 95% of all animals are invertebrates. From very simple things like a sponge to much more complex things
Sponges, a
like
crab.
the crab.